Welcome to the show. We've got a great episode for you today. But first things first, let's get right to the drawing for the ultimate buffalo giveaway. In this bowl are the names of all of our valued annual members. And I just want to say, for our entire team, thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us on this journey. We've been working hard behind the scenes to make sure you're getting a lot of value for your investment. And that goes for all of our members, not just our annual subscribers. We've got several new series in the works that'll be available exclusively on the Safari Classics TV app in the coming months. And if you haven't checked out the PH Perspective yet, definitely give that a watch. We'll also have more giveaways coming your way soon. So okay, without any further delay, the winner of the Cape Buffalo Safari with Charlton McCallum Safaris in Zimbabwe is, and I have been stirring 5 minutes before we got on the air, so they're well stirred. Our winner is Warren Samuel White. Warren, congratulations. We're going to be reaching out to you today to start planning your safari to Zimbabwe. And thanks again to everyone who participated. And now, let's get right to this week's episode. When we look at an episode, people say, well, what is the star of the episode? Sometimes it's the country, sometimes it's the game, sometimes it's the people, and on a really good safari, it's a little bit of all of that. And that is exactly what we're going to have today. We got some great people, we got some great game country, and we got, actually, I'll just say what it is, a hell of a hunt coming our way. So I want to bring on the two players that are going to join me today because it is their hunt, it's their safari. And it's professional hunter Dean Kendall up there on the right-hand side of my screen, the way I'm looking at it. Good morning, Dean.
Hey, Dave. Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I've been really looking forward to the sit-down. And, of course, our client hunters today is going to be my fellow Texan, Phil Korenek. And Phil, I am so glad you're here. I was digging through this safari the last couple of days, getting ready for the show. And I enjoyed it for a lot of reasons, and we're going to talk about every one of those, but it was just a great safari. Brother, I appreciate you being on with us today.
Good morning, and I appreciate the opportunity. This is great.
Well, Dean, this is going to be a Zimbabwe hunt, and this is, so why don't you just walk us through the wheres and whens of this safari?
This was 2 years ago in the northern Zambezi Valley, an area called Dandy North. It's sandwiched between the Chiwori Safari area. It's just a little south of the Zambezi River, and it's a little bit on the west side of the Mozambique border. So really the lower end of the Zambezi Valley. And we were there, I think it was in May. So fairly early season, quite thick bush and so on. But yeah, it was a heck of a hunt.
Well, now, Phil, this, I believe, was your first hunt. You've hunted with together again, but this was the first time you guys had teamed up together. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, first time with Dean and first time with Charlton McCallum.
When you booked your hunt, why did you choose Zimbabwe and Charlton McCallum?
Well, Zimbabwe, because I knew it was the true wild Africa, and that's really what I was after. I'd had friends that had hunted there, and I just, read about it my whole life. It was one of those things that you dream about. Charlton McCallum, I was interested in a Leopard, and I knew that they were very successful for that, with that. And I know when I first talked to him, I asked, and Buzz told me, he goes, I'm going to put you with a good cat man, Dean Kendall. And Dean turned out to be more than just a cat man.
Well, look, I will say this, one of the greatest stables of professional hunting in all of Africa is at Charlton McCallum, and every one of their guys, can successfully hunt everything that the lower Zambezi offers. Besides the leopard, certainly the lower Zambezi is known for its buffalo hunting, and buffalo was also a part of your safari.
Yeah, no, that was again. You dream. I'd hunted plains game a couple times in the past, but you dream of all the stories and everything. I didn't know it was going to turn out quite as exciting as it did, but yeah, I dreamed of the buffalo as well, and that turned out to be something.
Well, Dean, as a professional hunter on a 14-day buff leopard, hunt, kind of walk us through your game plan for this hunt. How, break that down for me.
Well, when you've got a cat involved, the first thing you've got to do is obviously get up all your baits. So I would take at least 2-3 days, if not 4 days, and concentrate on getting as many baits up as we can. Now, obviously, working in that area and knowing it as well as we do, we have a sort of idea in our heads of where we're going to put those baits. I will have 3 or 4 male leopards that I want to target, and so I'll know where they're going to go. Now, you've got to try and quickly collect a bunch of bait that you can go and hang up and get those things up and swinging as soon as you can. And it's only really once those baits are up and they're working for you that you can now start to concentrate on some of the other stuff that you're trying to target.
So when did I know it seemed like, and you said earlier, it was very early in the season, which means, thick bush and water is still, found in a lot of the pools and a lot of the riverbeds. So there's, it's, the game doesn't have to concentrate around water, and buffalo are going to drink every day if possible. So they can kind of be spread out. And it looked to me that's kind of what at the first few days of buffalo hunting, you were kind of struggling, to find some of those old dogger boys you're looking for.
Dogger balls were very spread out, and we had quite a hard time finding where they might be. But I know of a little enclave of dogger balls that were nestled right up against the Zambezi itself, in and among the villages. There's a community of black tribesmen who live up there. And these dogger balls live in and among the villages. So it's quite an unusual, and it's not an easy hunt to kick off with. So Phil was kind of thrown in the deep end a little bit in terms of degree of difficulty of those bulls that we were following in the villages.
Well, you finally got on them, and boy, you caught them in a great spot right here.
Wait till they come this side. You got him? One at the front.
There's a limb right in the way.
Okay, whoa. Okay. We were tremendously lucky because these dogger balls that live in the villages are very nocturnal. They come out and feed at night when everybody is gone to sleep, and then during the daytime they tuck themselves away in the most horrendous thick bush. So for us to catch them early morning as we did was fortuitous, and to find them in a spot that was as open as it was very, very lucky. I mean, some of the stuff that we do follow up, and it's quite hair-raising in there, but very fortunately they came out fairly open there. Okay, whoa. Okay.
Now, Phil, what caliber are you shooting here?
That was a 375.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you were a little bit off guard when you looked up and saw those guys going across that open.
We were fortunate. If we had got onto them possibly even a half hour later, I'm quite certain they would have tucked themselves away and we wouldn't have seen them again.
Okay,
so the stuff they go into.
Now, Phil, you you are about to enter one of the most interesting follow-ups we've had in quite some time. Now, I want to, at that point, you've hit the buffalo. You've got a 300 grain bullet in him, but where was the shot placement? Was it just a little bit high? Because I want to know. I know you did a post-mortem on him. Where did that first bullet hit him?
Oh, definitely too high.
Yeah.
Definitely too high. So that's one thing, in Texas, we all hunt so much hunting from the time you're a child. I killed my first whitetail when I was 9 years old. And this is one case where muscle memory did not serve me well. The buffalo first stopped before this. He had stopped, but there was a post or a tree in my way. And so they took off, and then they had to whistle to stop them. So, at that point, it's like you almost snap shooting, because they were going to go. And yeah, I knew to shoot lower. I know you're supposed to, but in that moment, muscle memory took over, and I shot it where I would have shot a whitetail or some other North American animal.
Well,
and then when they told me that, I was like, oh, it was kind of not good.
Well, adrenaline can play a little bit of that as well on I don't care whether it's your first buffalo or your 50th buffalo. I mean, that's always an exciting thing when that gun stock hits the sticks and you're on, and that happened fast. And I'm sure I've been in that situation. I bet Dean's eyes just popped open when he saw him coming out there in such an open area. But I noticed two things. That was fortunate. And I also noticed that was a hell of a buffalo. I said, ooh, that's a really, big body bull, but big horns too. So it's a really trophy buffalo. So now, you got a bullet in him, and now you're staring down the barrel of a follow-up. And Dean, what's going through your mind? I think did you have a pretty good idea the bullet was high?
I suspected. I mean, we could see, sort of impact, and I thought initially, it's high. So obviously at that point, with any wounded buffalo, it's a matter of course that we wait, 20, 30, 40 minutes for him to try and get a little, sick, maybe slow down a little bit, go and lay up somewhere. So that's what we did. We initially waited 20, 30 minutes, Phil, and then we began our follow-up after that. What was tremendously lucky is that he continued into slightly thinner bush, 100 yards on the left. There was all kinds of stuff which he didn't go into. That was very fortuitous too. But yeah, we waited initially 30 minutes before we began our follow-up.
Okay, so from where you're at right here, you got the first blood sign. How far did you go before you contacted the bull?
It actually didn't go that far. I mean, he literally ran out of that open
Just
field.
hold it, Christy. Don't.
It was probably a couple of 100 yards, and he went up into that ridge. And at that point, he was still following his buddies, his two buddies. And that's why he went the way he did and not into the thick stuff. But he ran not really that far. I mean, I would say 200 yards, and then disappeared.
Well, you had a bit of luck there, and a client would never, would never see this, but you had a little help from the birds. Walk me through what the giveaway was there.
Well, my tracker has got phenomenal sensors. His eyesight's unbelievable. Hearing is just off the chart good. And when we were following up, obviously he was in front at first, and he heard the oxpeckers, these little oxpecker birds that sit on the buffalo and eat the ticks, and they give off a little warning chirp, a little chitter, and when they see us, they saw us and made this little chirping sound, and my tracker picked up on that. And the first indication we had was that buffalo was there was when he heard those birds, and he stopped instantly and said, "This thing is here."
Well, the oxpecker saw you, and obviously so did the buffalo. And here he comes.
Let's shoot him again just for the hell of it.
Yep, do it.
I'm sorry, man.
It's all right.
Put you in that position.
Well done. Well done. Jesus. You know, initially, when he said this thing is here, I didn't even see it at that point. It was still covered in the brush. I had no visual on him at all. You can sort of see my tracker gets out of the way, which is what he's supposed to do. And then the first thing I saw was this buffalo coming through the bush. So I didn't even see him while he was standing. The first I saw was when he was coming.
Yeah. Now you're shooting a 470, right? And you get one into him. Phil gives him one right there, and it looks like in the shoulder. And he obviously that bull's hit pretty bad. You throw another 470 through him. Phil's lining up.
My first shot hit him straight between the eyes, and you know, if you can see, he just carries on coming. He didn't even bat an eyelid. He did veer very slightly, and he did go down onto his knees as a result of that first shot. But you're talking about being within an inch maybe, or maybe two of the brain, and he just kept coming. And then the second one, you know, went for the spine, which just drilled it, you know, very close to the spine. Also didn't drop him. So the two shots within very, very close distance of where they should be, and very little reaction.
And boy, the momentum they have at that point, if he's lined up with you, even his momentum, he may be brain shot, and he'll still come that last 3 or 4 yards and take you with him. Yeah, it's just they are just tremendously powerful, and they are fast on their feet. So what are you thinking right here, Mr. Phil?
I don't know, Dave. I guess well, first of all, when he came off the hill, he bellowed, and Dean told me, "Here he comes." I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever picked that up. But,
Oh, I did. Yeah.
But at that point, yeah, I don't know if I was thinking anything, Dave. Just looking back at it, it's so painful to watch me trying to get that shell in. Obviously, I remember doing that. It didn't seem to take as long in real life as it did, you know, when I watched it in video. But to have him standing right there, and I'm struggling to get the shell in, yeah, that was a little aggravating. But it happened fast, and I did manage to get it in before he got turned around and back to me. And it worked out okay.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, Dean's shot with a 500 grain slug. It's obviously thrown him off, but now he's obviously recentered himself. He sees you guys, and here he comes. And boy, that's the thing about buffalo. Sometimes you can turn a line, or you can hit an elephant in the face with a big bullet, and he may veer off. Once a buffalo's committed, you got to kill him, or he's going to get you down. There's only two possibilities there, and you guys shot. Now, Chris, you just play it all the way through here.
Let's shoot him again just for the hell of it.
Yep, do it.
I'm sorry, man.
It's all right.
Put you in that position.
Well done. Well done.
You say something here in just a second, Phil. You said, "Dean, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry." You know, once Dean had knocked it down, and I understood why you said it, because anybody that's hunted, you know, enough buffalo, that happened to be on your first buffalo, but it's happened to me where where I'm the hunter and I had a off-center shot on a buffalo in the exact same situation, causing a bad follow-up, and boy, you carry that anxiety with you as a client, because you're with guys that you admire and you like, and they like you, and you know, you're a hunting party, and you know, I know that anxiety and that you carry inside of you. And that tells me you're a damn good client, because, you know, a lot of guys, I've had people wound bulls and then say, "Hey, now it's your problem, brother. Get in there, bring me out my buffalo." And, you know, you were in there shoulder to shoulder with Dean, and And that the fact that you said that, I knew you were carrying that anxiety, and all's well that ends well. But Dean, that's a good client that says that to you, I think.
I have absolutely nothing but good things to say about Phil and how he conducted himself on that hunt and on that follow-up. It's very easy to sit and, point fingers when you're sitting in your armchair back home, but when it's live and real and it's happening fast, you don't know until you've been in that situation how you're going to react and what you're going to do. I thought Phil did amazingly well the whole way through that scenario.
Well, we talk about that all the time in our business because everybody points out, I would have done this or I'd have done that. You found it. It came. You both, unloaded on it, and you did everything, and you won. I mean, sometimes the buffalo wins, but you guys won the shootout, and I thought everybody handled themselves really, really well. And Phil, on top of having a hell of a story, you also have a hell of a buffalo bull hanging in your house in Texas right now. That is a beautiful bull.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. When all of it, the dust settled, and and I could get my composure and the adrenaline out of my system. Yeah, what a bull! I mean, wow, pretty amazing.
So I imagine there was an adult beverage back in camp that evening to celebrate that
before the evening.
Before the evening.
See the bull there. Shoot again. Shoot.
A client has booked an elephant or a Cape buffalo hunt with you, and he calls you saying he doesn't currently own a heavy caliber rifle, but he's going to buy one for this safari. What would your advice be on bolt action versus double rifles, scopes versus open sights, and caliber?
My advice for a client who hasn't shot a double, I would definitely tell them a bolt action and definitely with a scope. Because a lot of people are not used to open sights. They're used to the scope, they're shooting scopes all the time. And to shoot with open sights is a totally different game.
60 yards.
And as you know, on dangerous game, shot placement makes all the difference and is everything. The caliber that I would probably recommend they bring would be a 375. A 375 has got sufficient knockdown power and it's got good penetration, and it's a caliber that most people can shoot, with relatively light recoil.
Okay, so I'll start with caliber. I really like a 416. It's a great all-rounder. It's coming out of the barrel at 2,400 feet per second. It's a 400 grain bullet. It's famous for unbelievable penetration. So on an elephant with a side or frontal brain, awesome, or a body shot, a shoulder shot on a buffalo, a fantastic rifle. Recoil is not a major factor. And in fact, I'll just go back a second and also say 416 Rigby. I really like that caliber because it's a total all-rounder. And in terms of scope or open sights, I find that most clients don't shoot open sights that well. I only know a few who can. So I would definitely say scoped, and I would say quick detachable mounts. So that if the client does want to do a follow-up open sights, if he can shoot open sights well, he or she, then they can do that. Double or bolt action, I don't really have a preference, but if it's a 416, it's more than likely going to be a bolt. And at the end of the day, it comes down to whichever firearm client is the most comfortable with and shoots the best.
I can't tell you how excited we are about the new PH Perspective series. But just remember, what you just saw was only a small taste. To view the full series, you'll have to go to the Safari Classics TV app. And we'll be adding to this series regularly over time. And if you've got a question you'd like us to ask one of the PHs, please put it in the comments. The favorite thing that I hear from folks who I've met at shows or who comment on our new digital platform is, besides I enjoy it, is that I learned something. You know, something I learned the hard way very early in my African safari career is that African travel is best handled by experts who specialize in African travel and who cater to hunters, especially those of us that travel with firearms, who really need top-notch services as we plan our international travel. Or, said in another way, the agent that booked your vacation to Hawaii is not the person that you want booking your African travel. And for many years, our entire team at Safari Classics has used no one except Patrick Wright to book our travel to and throughout Africa. Patrick's agency, PWP Travel, specializes in personalized air travel, and their expertise assures all your travel arrangements are handled by professionals who thoroughly understand the challenges of African travel. PWP Firearm Services handles the preparation of required firearms clearance with airlines while guiding you on destination regulations and resources that are sometimes very confusing. Look, I've experienced weather delays, mechanical problems, and other unexpected issues, including lost luggage and even firearms at one time or another in Africa. But as a PWP client, I had access to their 24/7 after-hour support service with expert advice and immediate help just a phone call away. Trust me, if you use PWP Travel one time, you will use them every time. We've had a few viewers comment and say, why am I not seeing all of the episodes on the Safari Classics TV app? Let me show you something quickly that you might have missed. Right now, there are over 300 episodes available. So if it feels like you're not seeing everything, well, this is likely why. As you scroll through the different series, you'll notice the first thumbnail in each row has a number on it. That thumbnail is actually your link to the full collection. Just click on it and it will open the entire series, where you can view every episode organized by season and in order. Hopefully that helps you get the most out of everything the Safari Classics TV app has to offer. So you got your buffalo out of the way, and now it's time to get on to the other primary animal, but there's a little bit of hunting before that. So now you're going to get super serious about the leopard hunt, and that means bait.
We were very fortunate in that we were allowed to take a hippo because, you know, normally you go and look for impala and warthogs and so forth, but we were offered the opportunity to take a hippo for the bait.
Wait until you can see enough of the ear. There you go. Yep, that's it.
And that shot looks like it is just perfectly centered. He just bloop, just went down. So yeah, like you said, now the recovery happens on hippo, and that's always a pretty interesting. If you've never seen it before, Phil, when that pole hits him, they say, yeah, he's here. That's a good feeling. But yeah, it's not like you just wade out there and drag him ashore, is it?
Yeah, obviously shooting them out in the waters in the Zambezi, if you don't get them in the right place, they can disappear down the road and end up in Mozambique.
Yeah.
So we had to find a spot where we knew we weren't going to lose it.
Yeah.
A little backwater eddy. When we did kill him, he stayed there, fortunately. And when the guys went and poled around, they picked him up pretty quick. So we didn't have to wait too long wondering if he was dead or not. We found him quite quick, and obviously always a good feeling.
So now you are set for bait, and now you start baiting the trot line. So how many baits did you have out already, and then how many? Would you have 5 baits out of the hippo?
Yeah, we had more than 5. I think that out of the hippo, I don't remember exactly, but we got a bunch of baits out of it. By the end, we had something like 16 baits up altogether. Well, that's at one point. Yeah, with everything all thrown in. Phil, we had to get some guys to come and help.
Phil, what did you think of the process? I mean, it's, look, a good client will really enjoy the process. You know, it's their safari, but you know, sometimes guys, they just don't want to be bothered with the work. They just want to see the animal. But it's a very interesting process baiting a leopard. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel sorry for the hunters that don't have that in them, you know, and you're right. I mean, there's millions of hunters out there with different backgrounds and different passions, but yeah, being out there, everything from the sunrise to the sunset to watching the trackers to setting the baits to watching Dean work his magic, that's all of it. That's what it's about. I know you get, you know, I know you've done this your whole life, and you know that too. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And putting up with the gut bucket smell all day long.
Yeah, watching those guys sling the stuff on the trees, that's yeah.
Well, so many people think, you know, a leopard hunt's as easy as throwing a weenie in a tree, and you know, you come back the next day and there's a leopard up there. You know, it is a taxing process. And, you know, Dean, the trick is to get him there at a time of your choosing, not his choosing. And there's so much that goes into it. And, you know, Dean, what do you think when a big Tom comes up there and he hits that drag and he goes to the tree and he looks up there? Obviously, I believe, you know, he knows he probably thinks it's not Dean Kendall throwing that up there. He thinks he's pinching that off another cat in his territory that stuck a bait up in that tree.
Yes, I'm quite certain it happens in the wild where, you know, they'll see each other's kills and they'll climb up that tree and go and pinch it. So I don't think it's totally an unnatural scenario for them to find that meat and get up there. And that's what you're banking on. Obviously, with your dragging, as you're talking about, if you get it wrong, you can just as easily take a cat away from a bait as you can towards the bait. So there's a lot that goes into it. And Phil was one of those great guys. He was very interested in the process and how it all worked. And we were explaining to him at all times what we were doing, why we were using that tree, why we were doing it there. You know, particularly when you're trying to get a cat feeding in the daytime, there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, eventually, all the hard work started paying off because you did start getting some cats feeding. Now, I remember I think your first cat hit was a big female, yeah?
On any given leopard hunt in the lower Zambezi or most decent leopard places, you can get 3 or 4 females feeding for every male that you get feeding. So we've got to sift through all of this stuff. We had a bunch of females feeding by the time we got our targeted males going.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing to get a female feeding.
You know, obviously, there's different ways of looking at it. You can get the female feeding for a few days. There's a good chance that maybe she will bring a male in. You know, there's a downside to them in that you now have to sift through when the cat's in the tree, particularly low light conditions. Is this the male or is it the female? It's not always that easy to see at, you know, the distance and when the light is bad. It can be a good thing and it can be a more difficult thing.
Well, so you guys sorted through that situation for several days. I mean, you were sitting in blinds.
The first one we sat on where that little guy was, there was actually a really big Tom that came in there. And I actually underestimated him. We hung that hippo's the entire head and neck in the tree. And I thought he'll never be able to pull that up, so heavy. And that's exactly what he did. He came in beautiful daylight hours. But the first thing he did was, before we could shoot, he pulled the hippo head up onto the tree and then sat behind it. We watched him feeding for, I think, 20 minutes, sitting behind that hippo head. So that was a little underestimation on my part. And eventually pulled and winded us and started giving us all kinds of trouble. And that was when the second male hit, which is the one that was with the female, which is the one we ended up getting for Phil. So but the first one was an incredible cat too.
Well, let's go to that cat. So now you say we've got a male and a female hitting. Now sometimes that's a mating pair, And sometimes it's not. It's just a male that followed he followed a female and, knew she had meat, and they go up there and run them off and they take it over. But sometimes they're mating, and when they're mating, that can throw a spanner into it too. They get pretty unpredictable, huh?
Yes, what tends to happen when they are actually mating, and this is a process that can go on for about 4 or 5 or even 6 days, is that the male will not eat. The female will be up and down that tree all day long. You can watch her 10, 12 times, and you will not get a sight of the male. They tend to lay up in the heavy cover. They don't get involved. They don't come to the bait. It becomes quite difficult to get a look at them while they're doing that. So you have to change strategies a little bit in order to get this male.
But Phil, it's still pretty damn cool to see a leopard. Anytime you can see a leopard, it's a blessing. And just to watch them and see them in their natural habitat and how wary they are, and you could just see her looking, and I mean they don't miss much. And she didn't know for sure, but there was a few times she looked over there and she gave it like right there. She's giving it that stare. I don't remember that bush being there the other day, but obviously it was natural enough to her. It had her attention a little bit, but I don't think she didn't know you were there. But boy, they're cautious. They don't. Nothing escapes. Little tiny sounds. Anything out of the ordinary, a flash of a gun barrel or something, and they can be gone. But she's up there getting comfortable, eating her hippo dinner.
She definitely, something got her attention there. We were pretty close, so she probably heard something, but wasn't sure what it was. But we weren't real far away. It was a nice close setup. So
okay.
She may have picked up a little something. Yeah.
This is day 14, yeah?
I believe the sun was down at that point. We were literally burning on fumes at this point in time-wise. We did not have a lot of time left at all.
That's a good feeling. So what are you thinking right here, Mr. Phil?
Well, David, Dean had told us when we set the bait up that he wanted to make sure we had a clear shot of a cat below the tree. He said, you're probably going to kill the cat below the tree. He probably will not get into the tree. And again, true to Dean's words, that's exactly what happened. And then that earlier footage when the female was up in the tree, when she was going back and forth, they were actually breeding. We heard them in the bush breeding. So we knew he was there. But with the time was ticking by and it was getting later and later and later. And then when he showed up, boy, that's such a magical moment. And obviously you could see the size of his head, his body, and then, you could see that he was a male for obvious reasons. And, I was waiting for Dean to give me the word, but, I was ready. And so.
When I look back on the few times, it's went right with me on leopards. To me, it doesn't get any better than that. And that had to be a awfully special feeling that you drained literally every ounce of daylight for 14 days. And there you are when you know you got him. And
See, watch Dean's face here, right? And he shakes his head. That's one of my favorite things when I rewatch this, is Dean just shaking his head. He couldn't believe it.
well, you're about to do one of the best walk-ups in Africa right here. And Capstick said in the book one time, he said a lion kind of looks rumpled in death. He just looks a little ratty, and you see the ticks and stuff, and you walk up and look at your leopard, and it looks like they just brought him home from the dry cleaners. He's just perfection.
When you start to feel like it's not going to happen and that you might have to do this all again one day, and you're just watching the minutes tick by and it just draining away, and your hope is draining away, and then suddenly there he is. I mean, as you know, Dave, they just suddenly there they are, and we saw immediately that's him, and then there's me there. I was just a little bit overcome, all the relief and the emotions are coming out, and he was such a beautiful old Zambezi Valley Tom too. He was really old. Wow. That was just the icing on the cake.
Phil, you
fantastic evening.
Phil, you said something that I appreciated and agreed with 100%. Before y'all were walking in for your final sit on night 14, you said something into the camera. You said, if we don't get him, we don't get him. But we have played the game as hard as we know how. And I'm not going to feel bad for me. I'm going to feel bad for Dean and his team, because they have worked so damn hard. And Dean, that's the kind of client that you wish you could hunt every time, that really understands and appreciates all the hard work that goes into that kind of safari.
Well, night after night, Buzz would check with Dean, and I could just watch as the days went by. Dean was getting a little more stressed and worried, and we'd had such a great hunt. And, just being there, just every chance you get to go to Africa, whether you've been as many times as you have or as many times as I have, every single trip is a blessing. It's something. And we had such a great trip with so many good people, and watching them do what they do in the trackers. It was good. I was good, but you could tell that Buzz and Dean were stressed, and I felt bad for them. And so obviously I was excited to get my cat, but I knew too that Dean was very relieved.
Dean was not going to let go of hope. I mean, he was going to be blowing on the embers of hope until sunset and then some. And I was so tickled that it turned right for you, and you got your cat, and you got a buffalo story that, you'll carry that with you. You'll be an old guy. I tell people sometimes I'll see that memory when I'm an old man, and hopefully into the next world I'll still have that memory. And you had a couple of great stories to tell on this safari.
For sure. No, I'm really, really fortunate. And I've been back with Dean, and I'm going back with Dean, and every trip is awesome.
Well, no two safaris are the same, but you'll go on a few before you'll have the combination of excitement on the buffalo and anxiety on the leopard. I imagine when you got on that airplane, you just kind of went, whew, it's over, in a good way, not a bad way. It's, gentlemen, hats off to both of you. I really appreciate you both coming on and walking us through this one, because this was a special safari for a lot of reasons.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks very much for having us.
Well, as I tell people every week, if you enjoy this kind of adventure, this is the home for it, Safari Classics TV. And if you enjoy this, I really want to encourage you to get the Safari Classics TV app. What you see on YouTube is just a taste of what's waiting for you on our app. And you can find out more by going to safariclassicstv.com. And if you want to get the app, make sure you register and pay for it on safariclassicstv.com, and then go download it from the App Store. Because if you go straight to an App Store and download it, they're going to charge you 30%. I don't want you to have that. But for $70 a year, less than a box of 375 shells, you will have 24/7 safari adventure at your fingertips anytime you want it. So until next time, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate Phil and Dean being with us today. That was a great safari, and we're going to have another one for you next week right here on Safari Classics TV.